Most missing child cases grow quieter with the years. The posters fade, the phone stops ringing, the public forgets the face long before the family ever can. But some disappearances refuse to stay in the past. Some cases remain alive because the silence around them never feels natural. It feels unfinished. The disappearance of 12-year-old Johnny Gosch is one of those cases. On the morning of September 5, 1982, Johnny left home in West Des Moines, Iowa, to deliver newspapers on his regular route. He was seen by witnesses. His wagon was found. His newspapers were still there, but Johnny was gone. More than 4 decades later, no one has ever been arrested, and one of the most famous missing child cases in American history remains open. John David Gosch was born on November 12, 1969, in Des Moines, Iowa, to John and Noreen Gosch. By the time he disappeared, he was 12 years old and already known as a dependable paperboy in a quiet suburban neighborhood. He was young, but he had the kind of routine that made him seem older than he was. Early mornings, responsibility, familiar streets, the kind of independence parents once believed was safe. That detail mattered, because when Johnny's case exploded into the national spotlight, he was not seen only as one missing boy from Iowa. He became something larger, a symbol of vulnerability, of institutional failure, and of a country beginning to understand just how exposed children could be. His face would later appear on milk cartons, helping define a generation's image of missing children in America. Before dawn on Sunday, September 5, 1982, Johnny left home to begin his paper route in West Des Moines. It was a familiar routine. He usually woke his father to go with him, but that morning he did not. Instead, he went out alone, taking only the family's miniature dachshund, Gretchen. For Johnny, it was just another delivery morning. For his family, it would become the dividing line between life before and life after. Other paper carriers later reported seeing Johnny at the newspaper drop, picking up his papers. That is the last sighting of him confirmed by multiple witnesses. After that, the timeline becomes both brief and deeply unsettling. A paperboy named Mike said he saw Johnny speaking with a stocky man in a blue two-toned car near the drop. Another witness, John Rossi, also saw the interaction and thought it looked strange. Johnny told him the man was asking for directions and even asked Rossi to help. Then, Johnny kept moving along his route. But as Johnny walked north toward the area where his deliveries began, another paperboy noticed he appeared to be followed by a second man. Not long after, a neighbor heard a door slam and saw a silver Ford Fairmont speed away from the area where Johnny's wagon would later be found. The first sign that something was wrong came not from police, but from customers. Calls began coming in from people along Johnny's route complaining that their newspapers had not been delivered. His father, John Gosch, went out around 6 a.m. to check the neighborhood. Almost immediately, he found Johnny's wagon 2 blocks from home. It was still full of newspapers. Johnny was nowhere around. That image would become one of the most haunting details in the case. A wagon left behind, papers undelivered, a route interrupted in the middle of an ordinary task. There were no obvious signs of violence, no clear struggle, no immediate explanation, just the absence of a 12-year-old boy who should have been standing right there. The Gosches contacted West Des Moines police at once, but the family would later become sharply critical of the early response. Noreen Gosch said authorities were slow to act, and that, at the time, a child could not be formally classified as missing until 72 hours had passed. She believed those first lost hours mattered enormously. In cases like this, they often do. At first, police reportedly treated the disappearance as if Johnny might have run away, but that theory quickly became difficult to defend. His wagon had been abandoned. Witnesses had seen suspicious men and vehicles near him that morning, and nothing about the scene suggested a planned disappearance by a 12-year-old boy delivering newspapers before sunrise. Authorities later shifted their view and came to believe Johnny had likely been kidnapped. Still, the investigation produced very little in the way of hard evidence. Witnesses described the stocky man in the blue car. John Rossi tried to remember the license plate and later even underwent hypnosis in hopes of recovering more details, eventually telling police he believed the plate was from Warren County. Another witness placed a silver Ford Fairmont near the scene, but no suspect was arrested, and no decisive breakthrough followed. What makes these early hours so important is not only what was seen, but what was not. No one could say exactly when Johnny was taken. No one could say whether he got into a car voluntarily, was forced in, or was misled by someone pretending to need help. That uncertainty left room for decades of theory, but very little certainty. As the search continued, Johnny's disappearance began drawing attention far beyond Iowa. His parents did not let the case fall into routine silence. Noreen, especially, became increasingly vocal about what she saw as serious failures in the way missing children cases were handled. She spoke publicly, organized efforts, and pushed back against the idea that families should wait while crucial time disappeared. In 1982, there was no Amber Alert, no modern national missing child response system, no public expectation that a child's disappearance would trigger immediate coordinated action across jurisdictions. Johnny's case exposed those weaknesses in a way the country could not easily ignore. Then, in 1984, his photograph appeared on milk cartons alongside another missing Des Moines area paperboy, Eugene Martin. Johnny was among the first missing children in the United States to be publicized that way. That image made his disappearance part of the national consciousness. Millions of people saw his face. But awareness, painful as it is, does not guarantee resolution. Part of what made Johnny's case even more disturbing was what happened afterward. On August 12, 1984, another Des Moines area paperboy, 13-year-old Eugene Martin, vanished under strikingly similar circumstances while delivering newspapers. Then, in 1986, 13-year-old Mark Allen disappeared while walking to a friend's house the day before Easter. Authorities were never able to prove the three cases were connected. And that point matters. Similar does not mean linked. Suspicion does not equal evidence. But the pattern was enough to deepen public fear and raise a question that has never fully gone away. If Johnny's disappearance was not isolated, then what exactly was happening in Iowa during the 1980s? Noreen later claimed that before Eugene Martin disappeared, a private investigator searching for Johnny had warned her that another abduction would take place, and that it would involve a paperboy from the south side of Des Moines. Whether that claim reflected genuine prior knowledge or something else, it added another deeply controversial layer to a case already surrounded by anxiety and distrust. As time passed, Johnny's parents began receiving letters, tips, and messages from people claiming to know what had happened to their son. Some seemed desperate to help. Others appeared manipulative from the start. In 1985, Noreen received a letter from a 19-year-old man named Robert Herman Meyer II, who signed it using the name Samuel Forbes Dakota. He claimed Johnny had been taken by a child slavery ring connected to an outlaw motorcycle club. According to the FBI, Meyer persuaded the Gosches to send him money and then demanded far more, promising Johnny would be returned. He was later arrested and charged with wire fraud. The case officially treated him as a con artist, but even that did not bring emotional clarity. Noreen later argued that his arrest damaged her family's credibility and made it harder for others to come forward. This is one of the defining tensions in the Johnny Gosch case. Real tragedy often attracts false witnesses, hoaxes, and opportunists. But when a family is searching for a missing child, even bad information can become hard to ignore. Every lie still forces hope to rise before it collapses. One of the most controversial chapters in the case came years later. According to Noreen Gosch, in March 1997, she was awakened around 2:30 in the morning by a knock at her apartment door. Standing outside, she said, was Johnny, now 27 years old, accompanied by an unidentified man. Noreen claimed she recognized her son immediately and said he showed her a birthmark on his chest. She said they spoke for roughly an hour or more. According to her account, Johnny told her he had been taken by a pedophile organization, used for years, and later discarded when he grew older. She said he was afraid for his life, living under another identity, and did not feel safe returning home. Noreen would later repeat this story publicly and include it in her book, but authorities have never confirmed that the visit happened, and Johnny's father publicly said he was not sure it really occurred. That uncertainty has divided observers ever since. Some believe Noreen was telling the truth. Some believe someone may have impersonated Johnny. Others reject the story entirely. What cannot be disputed is that the alleged visit became one of the most debated moments in the entire case, because if it happened, it changes everything. And if it did not, it reveals just how far grief and mystery can bend the edges of belief. In 2006, the case entered another deeply disputed phase when Noreen reported that photographs had been left at her front door. She said one black and white image appeared to show 12-year-old Johnny bound and gagged, with an apparent brand on his shoulder. Other images showed boys in disturbing positions, and one child in particular was never identified. Noreen insisted that boy was Johnny. Some of the photographs were later said to match material investigated years earlier in Florida, where authorities reportedly concluded no crime could be proven. A former investigator corroborated parts of that background, though he could not provide definitive proof tying every image to that earlier case. According to later reporting, 3 boys in the photos were identified by law enforcement, but not the boy Noreen believed was Johnny. So once again, the case moved into familiar territory, something alarming, something unresolved, and no clear answer. Another controversial figure tied to the case was Paul Bonacci, who in 1989 claimed he had been abducted into a sex ring with Johnny and forced to participate in Johnny's kidnapping. Noreen believed Bonacci knew details only Johnny himself could have shared. But the FBI and local police did not consider him a credible witness, and they did not interview him as part of the case. Even as the investigation stalled, Johnny's disappearance continued to change the country. Noreen Gosch became one of the most visible and persistent advocates for missing children in America. In 1982, she established the Johnny Gosch Foundation and began speaking publicly about the tactics used by sexual predators. She pushed for immediate police response in missing child cases, refusing to accept the idea that families should wait while evidence disappeared. That effort helped lead to what became known as the Johnny Gosch Bill in Iowa in 1984, requiring immediate police response to reports of missing children. Similar laws later spread to other states. Noreen also testified in U.S. Senate hearings on organized crime, speaking about organized pedophilia and what she believed it had to do with her son's case. She later said she received death threats. She testified before the Department of Justice and was present as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was established with federal support. This part of the story matters because Johnny's case did not end with his disappearance. It reshaped policy, public awareness, and the way families fought back when authorities moved too slowly. Today, Johnny Gosch's case is considered cold, but it is still open. As of 2026, no arrests have ever been made. Authorities have never located Johnny, never confirmed the claims surrounding the 1997 visit, and never produced a final public explanation for what happened on that September morning in 1982. That leaves the case in a strange place. It is one of the most well-known missing child cases in the United States. It has generated decades of media coverage, private investigation, competing theories, and public fascination. And yet at its center, the facts remain painfully simple. Johnny left for his paper route, witnesses saw suspicious men and vehicles nearby, his wagon was found abandoned, and he never came home. There are many reasons the Johnny Gosch case still grips people after so many years. Part of it is his age. Part of it is the setting, a suburban paper route before sunrise, the kind of scene that once felt safe by definition. Part of it is the unsettling mix of witnesses, abandoned evidence, and possible leads that never became arrests. But more than anything, this case endures because it exists on 2 levels at once. On one level, it is the disappearance of a 12-year-old boy. On another, it is a case that grew so large, so public, and so controversial that the truth became harder to separate from the mythology built around it. There are claims, counterclaims, alleged sightings, hoaxes, photographs, conspiracy theories. And beneath all of it is a family that never got a clear answer. Johnny Gosch disappeared in 1982. The country learned his name. His case helped change the law. It changed how missing children were viewed in America. But change is not the same thing as justice, and awareness is not the same thing as resolution. Today, the disappearance of Johnny Gosch remains unsolved. No one has ever been convicted. No final account has ever been proven. Only fragments remain: a pre-dawn paper route, a blue car, a silver Ford Fairmont, an abandoned wagon, years of claims and contradictions, and a 12-year-old boy whose name became one of the most recognizable in the history of American cold cases. And there are the known facts. If you have your own thoughts on the Johnny Gosch case, let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like more cold cases covered in this style, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, stay alert.